Ready, hunt!
Everybody all set? Well, welcome everyone. We're all, anxious and excited here to be starting the 2012 season. We've already had a couple of days on the field, and it's gone really well. I'm excited about this group. I feel we've got a really, good chance to be one of those teams where we're competing for Big 12 and national championships. Hopefully we can make some improvement on a year ago and get that done. Some areas that I'm encouraged about, maybe, some of the strong points are, the experience in the offensive line, I think is a big positive. The experience at quarterback, of course, with Landry Jones, really solid. Running backs as well. The area that we've got to really make some gains and really work hard here through 2 days, of course, with receivers and tight ends, where we are inexperienced. When you only have one guy in Kenny Stills that's in a position to play here in the first part of the season, those guys have to step up. I'm encouraged in that the first couple of days here, the young freshman receivers look like a good and talented group and are really doing well. The Colton Bester's doing well, also a little older guy. And tight ends, the two of them, Brandon Green and Taylor McNamara, were here in the spring and did really well. Sam Grant got in this summer and really looks good too. So again, we just need to keep moving forward with those guys, but it's a good group of guys. Defensively, I'm excited, and I really believe our front line is going to be better maybe than what people think. I'm hopeful that's the case with 5 seniors up there. I think that matters. David King and R.J. Washington have a lot of experience, and then you have all the other guys inside with Stacy McGee, Marcus McFarland, Casey Walker, also all seniors that I'm hopeful that group will really make an impact here this year, along with the other guys that are returning. Chuka Nejile has had a great winter, spring, and looks great. He's in great condition right now and has really made a jump in there at the defensive end position as well. Really excited about some of the freshmen there too. Michael Anoha, and Tapper, those two guys really look special. So they're going to help. And moving back into the backers, they're all, there's good experience back there. We lose Travis, but all these other guys have played and look good. And in the secondary, there's some decent experience. And some other guys that are coming through, stepping up. Hopefully we can play more consistently there. I thought, of course, in a few games, the big plays given up, the yardage given up, that was an area that we needed to make a lot of improvement. And hopefully as we go through here these 2 days, we can do that. Kicking game should be really good. We got our punter and kicker back. Daniel Franklin looks good with the long snapping. Austin Woods has been able to practice, and he'll remain our field goal snapper. Austin's done a tremendous job fighting through all of his chemo treatments and his cancer treatments, and continues to be out there every day, enthusiastic. It's remarkable to watch him. So we're excited that Austin's been able to work through all this and continue to play. Tress Way, punting, one of the better punters the last couple of years in our conference, continues to look well, and Michael Honeycutt finished the year last year ranked number 1 in the Big 12 in field goal percentage, and I believe he'll have a stronger leg this year in that he's a year older, he's gained some weight, strength, and is hitting the ball further this year. So he was a young guy a year ago, and now being a year older, I think he's going to be a little stronger, but he's been consistent for us. From there, I guess I'll just open it up for questions.
How much does it help the young wide receivers and tight ends that Landry's back and kind of help them direct things?
Well, you can tell they're already very familiar from going through the whole summer. you can tell Landry and some of the older guys that have been around have been helping them, learn the system, learn what to do. And really, for the first couple of days, those guys are out there doing well. They're, where they should be, running the correct routes. And so you can tell that they've had a lot of work through the summer. And an inexperienced quarterback would have a harder time doing that. Landry knows what he wants, what the system requires, where he wants the guys. And you can tell he's been able to coach them up.
You got a lot of young receivers. I mean, they're obviously talented. You wouldn't bring them in. But what's the biggest thing they got to adjust to so they can help you on Saturdays in their first year?
It isn't so much adjust to as it is just keep developing. What you don't get, like you do from one level to the next, high school to college to the pros, the speed, the competitiveness, the consistent competitiveness to consistently make plays and be where you should be and to run your routes at full speed. Those are just things that have to keep being worked.
Kenny's got to be, along those lines, an example for those guys more than he was when Ryan was still around. You seen what you need from him in that regard?
Well, it's only been 2 days, but Kenny's been very positive, very much a leader, and it's been a really good sign.
Anything that in particular you've appreciated about Trey McGuire and the way he's handled his business since being so, talked about in the spring and having that big spring game?
Yeah, Trey reminds me of, he has handled himself in this whole situation wonderfully, and he should, I guess, you would expect that, and I think, he's been very mature about everything. He's been incredibly responsible with class, with everything else, with taking care of his business, and he reminds me of, and I want to make this comparison in the right way, of a little bit like Adrian was, in that he can't wait to come to practice. He can't wait to work out. He can't wait to, to get in the locker room, put his stuff on, and go play. He's one of those guys that just loves to play, and that's that's what you love, and it shows, in the way he competes.
Coach Dominic Liddy, 100%. What about the running backs?
He looks good. We haven't had any contact. We've only been in helmets and shoes, and Dom has looked good. So hopefully that'll continue. All the backs look good. There's of Roy and Brennan. Have played consistently for us for a couple of years. Trey Millard, of course, everyone knows, and all these other young guys that have come in are really look good. It's been exciting to watch them, learning and competing, and again, way too early to say if anybody's ahead of the other, but they're doing well.
Bob, the fan base seems extremely juiced about Mike being back. Have you had to whenever you talk to people that's like that, have you tried to temper them and saying, hey, he's not a...
A little bit. All that I have said is Mike hasn't made a play in a long time. So he's way too old to be out there making plays. Ultimately, the players still have to be the ones that, when they're in position to make plays or to make sure that they're focused and concentrated to put themselves in position where they should be to make plays. But I'm encouraged in that the way Mike continues to work with our staff, the direction he gives to the players on the field. I believe that it'll make a difference. I believe that they'll improve and and they should too, being a year older. But and having some pride in that when we broke down a year ago, that they ought to take that to heart and hopefully get back to having a defensive reputation like we're used to having. But again, I'm always tempered by the players ultimately have to do it.
Where when you needed him at guard, he was there. When you needed him at center, you could count on him.
Gabe is the best. And believe me, if we needed a tackle, he'd play tackle. He's talented enough to do that, a converted tight end. The guy's incredibly bright in that he can play at positions and know what to do at them all. And I don't mean just academically bright, but I mean football. I guess that's what you did take it, a football bright, in that he gets it all and he gets what everyone's doing up there. And he's another one of those guys that loves to be on the field, loves to come to practice. He does it all. He's a great leader for us.
Bob, Ben Haber, in his absence, will it be felt almost as much off the field as on, as far as he seemed to be quite a leader, a locker room guy?
Well, sure, but he's still around, and you know, in the end, when you're on a team with 105 guys, I never believe there's any three guys that really are dictating what your attitude in the locker room's like. It's multiple guys, and hopefully, you know, there'll be more guys step up.
Is there something that sets Mike apart from other defensive coaches? I mean, it seems coaching is multifaceted. What's his genius?
Well, I think his strengths are how detailed he is. He's very meticulous about every position, not just the secondary, about every position on the defense and their technique and how they're playing it and what they're doing, and real demanding in that how come it isn't right, you know, and so he's very detailed that way and how he wants it, and then has a good way of communicating with the staff and the players to get it. You know, he's again demanding in what he wants, and the players seem to respond to that.
Let's talk about the early schedule. You open on the road and 5 Saturdays in September, and you're off for 2 of them.
Well, again, I think everyone's aware that TCU was in one of those slots and was another tough non-conference game that we like to schedule, that not everybody does. That game was moved to a conference game and had to be moved out of that slot. And there wasn't a ton of people with their hand up to come fill the spot. So that's just the way it works.
Well, Mike, have you seen a lot of changes from his first time here to now? Has he just any subtle changes, big changes?
Well, you know what? There's a lot of changes in me from when Mike was here and how I am now. You know, I bet you're different than when he was here and how you are now. So, in the end, he's still the same guy that's very focused and again very detailed in what he wants and you know and displaying intensity to get it and that's it has served him well. So in some ways, we're all a little bit older, wiser, maybe, you know, in a lot of ways, but we're more seasoned than we were 8 years ago.
Bob, everybody's talked about how mature Trey was when he got here. How much of that do you attribute to his time at Hargrave and that structure?
You know, I'd have to say Hargrave did a great job with him, but I wasn't with him in high school, so I don't want to take away what his high school people were, how they worked with him, what he did there. They obviously did a great job. He was a tremendous player and you know, did really well in high school along with then, you know, going to Hargrave. He comes in and going through there, I imagine, with it's more regimented than most places, you know, and how they conduct their business. So he came in here ready to handle this, you know, the regimen of being a college student athlete.
Bob, Neela had received a bunch of tweets from players supporting him. Can you tell us anything about his situation?
Yeah, I don't. You'd have to have our trainers or doctors detail it for you. It was a heart condition that with this procedure corrects it. Man, it isn't life-threatening. It'll be, you know, he'll be able to continue to play, and he could have continued. He's had it for a long time when no one ever knew it. He didn't know it. And it just would flare up at times. I just leave it a heart condition. I couldn't tell you exactly the terms of it. But this procedure is only I think he's only going to be out maybe a week, and then he'll be back. And again, give me a little break there, maybe a day or two longer or shorter. And then, but again, isn't anything this should correct the problem. He should be fine going forward.
Well, when you're dealing with a disciplinary issue like bringing those guys back onto the roster, is your decision making 100% just based on that player and his situation, or does how it affects the team ever part of the equation?
It's all how it affects the team first. We'll take that back. First, it's the athletic department's determination in this case. It's department matter and procedure. So it's the athletic director's call. And then, of course, he's going to confer with me on what he feels, and if do I even want to consider this is what they've done to be reinstated? Do you want to consider it? And then again, it would, to me, it's how it will affect the team positively, negatively, and or what I feel their opportunity should be from here. So, but again, it begins with the athletic director.
I've talked to you about this before years ago, but do you ever feel like that a big part of your job is just a guy that's wayward in whatever degree or for whatever reason, trying to help him get himself straightened out before he leaves here?
Well, I don't think there's any question. We all deal with young people that are still growing, maturing, learning, and learning responsibility in all kind of ways. So we do try to be positive influences, guide them, teach them, direct them. You have patience when you can, and at certain degrees the patience is over. You've done all you can, and they're not willing to do things that you feel need to be done to make it, to improve themselves. I feel to this point these guys have obviously had some serious measures to go through to be back in a position to even practice and to earn their scholarship back, and they're still a long way back from getting on the field. So, but your question, we do believe in developing our players, and we've had a lot of great stories, success stories that people all the time just want to get rid of kids. They're still kids, and you still want to try and help them, and I think that's the balance. You try and look at, they're not a better kid in the world than Ryan Broyles, and he didn't start off, just lighting it up, So, and a lot that you don't know, that I know of players that I've dealt with that, after a couple of years, all of a sudden are pretty special, and they finally figure it out, and they're better for it. So we try to do that for sure.
Is Camille any closer to rejoining?
No, Camille won't be back.
Period?
Right. He won't be reinstated.
Is there a unit on the defense that might, lead it that has to come through first?
I'm working on it.
Of all the units on the defense, are any ahead of each other? Are any in a position to sort of lead earlier in the season?
Defense, I don't know anyone's particularly ahead of the other. I think they're all in pretty good position, though. I like the way what they're doing right now. I feel like we're going to make some good strides there.
You mentioned up front you thought you'd be better defensive line, I guess you're talking about. Is that because you think you're better luck with injuries, new guys coming in, guys getting older?
Well, I think a little bit of the experience, maturity, having 5 seniors. The young guys stepping up. Jordan Phillips in 2 days looks really good. That's a positive thing. I love the young freshman DNs coming in. Chuka, like I said, I think didn't play a bunch last year, but played some. And when he did well. And then watching them all spring and winter, Chuka's ready to play. So I feel good about the group.
It looks like you guys, or Mike has talked, and you talked about it too, playing a lot more that nickel quite a bit.
Well, depending on personnel matchups, but yes.
So can you talk about the personnel that you have there, and who might fill that role and who might play that position?
Well, 2 guys that play it the most right now are Gabe Lynn and Julian Wilson. And Tony's, been playing deep.
Did you move Danzel to the second?
Danzel, we're looking at a safety position, yes.
When was that? Oh, last spring or after the spring?
No, just sometime this summer.
You got a lot of potential?
I don't have a date. Just before we started.
What's his potential there, you think?
Oh, he has a chance. You'd be amazed when you move kids around. Sometimes all of a sudden something looks really good. So.
Is Gino the only other
It's like we
position?
moved Andre Wolfold from receiver to corner, and he's a first-round draft pick. He probably wouldn't have been drafted as a receiver. So.
Is Gino the only other?
Gino's he's done all right at tight end, but he's doing all right there right now.
I think we probably all identified Travis Lewis as a sort of a go-to guy to speak to for many reasons, but because he's a leader on the defense. Is there anybody sort of filling not the crazy quote role, but the leadership role that he filled?
No, I wouldn't say in the way that Travis has filled it. No, nobody can. Travis is a unique character, and we love him. You know what I mean? And listen, and Travis worked hard, so it isn't It's just that guys are different. But, you know, the guys up front, R.J. Washington, I think, has done a really good job. You know, guys, you know, in the secondary, Tony Jefferson and Aaron Colvin, you know, guys that do well with that. Tom Wart does a good job. You know, they all kind of do it.
So who will fill the crazy quote role?
Hopefully nobody.
Any chance your brother's going to do it for you?
Doubtful. Yeah.
You did okay
Doubtful.
with it before?
Oh, I don't know about all that, but
In a day and age when guys are trying to leave for the NFL, you know, most times as quick as they can, why do you think Landry came back? Was it that he didn't like the end of his season? Was it a little bit for Whitney? Or?
well, I think it's different for everybody, and he's answered that a lot. So he has legitimate reasons that are personal. Meaning, you know, he wanted to finish, you know, with his class, and he wanted a chance to compete for another championship, and I'm sure getting married and all that has something to do with it. But again, I think he weighed everything, and if you look at the quarterback position, the quarterbacks that usually have had the longest and best careers in the NFL exhausted their eligibility in college. And that's a big reason. I mean, everybody, to me, two of the most famous quarterback family out there are the Mannings, and it's funny that they all went through their full years and they didn't answer all those questions. And you look at all the other guys that Sam Bradford did, it didn't seem to hurt him, even though everyone thought it would. In the end, I think it's there's a lot to be gained with this extra year to be more prepared for what he'll get when he gets there. You know, and to polish everything about your technique up, to be a year more mature, to handle the media, the attention that comes with being an NFL quarterback, on and on and on. There's a lot of things to be gained by going into it as ready as you possibly can be, as opposed to maybe a little bit short.
What kind of improvement do you sense Landry's made, Coach, coming into his senior season? I mean, not to summer camp and stuff. The improvement, do you think Landry's made what you expected?
I don't think there's any question. I mean, he looks quicker out there in the way of his feet. He's worked hard physically with his running and lifting, and you know, I think you always improve. You know, all those guys, their footwork, their delivery, the speed on the ball. You know, it would be, you know, his reads, all of those things usually, you know, with another year of experience, you improve.
Bob, given the success you've had, your background, did your struggles defensively hurt your pride?
Oh, absolutely. But, you know, struggles offensively hurt my pride too. I'm the head coach now, you know, so it's either side bothers me. But in the end, you know, for a lot of years, we did have a strong defensive reputation, and felt like in a lot of years that, you know, that's what we hung our hat on, and you know, and to not be that way, you know, in a few games is bothersome.
Is it an oversimplification to say Mike is simplifying the defense?
Sure, as he said the other day, you can only simplify it so much as offenses allow you to, and you know, so it's, again, I think as much as anything, it's trying to make it simpler for our guys to have fewer mental mistakes. And if we do that, it'll help us.
Well, when you look back at, you know, the games that really hurt you last year, Tech and Baylor primarily, were those more mental mistakes than physical?
No, not. Some of them were physical, but some of them too were, you know, well, in the end, it's a little of both. It always is.
What is in the Big 12 with spread offenses, with, you know, some teams getting 90 to 100 offensive snaps and all of it? What is good defense anymore? I mean, how do you measure it?
Well, you have a point in that if you'd have to really just go by yards per play, because we're getting a lot more plays than a lot of other teams, you know, if you're looking at just statistics like total yards, you know, those kind of things. And hey, you know, we contribute to it too by snapping it fast. So, you know, in the end, that's something that you have to balance, and or maybe there's times, you know what, huddling is the right thing to do. If you're not getting the stops you need defensively, or if you're not staying on the field offensively.
Is that typically when somebody hands you the stat book? I mean, if they do, and you look, is that what you look at, yards per play? first day?
Sure.
Okay.
But, you know, in the end, you know, still points always matter to me more than anything. And, you know, but when you look and you've had maybe 300 more defensive snaps than another defense in another league, and you're like, wow, that's 3-4 more games.
Thoughts on that preseason number 4 ranking?
What about it?
Just
Thoughts? I'm sorry, I didn't hear your first word. Thoughts? Again, it really doesn't much matter. You know, it's probably a good place to be, you know, rather than, you know, everyone talking about you being number 1, and it's better than 5 or 6. But in the end, you only stay there if you keep winning, you know, and so we still have to go do the work, and really that's all we think about is doing the work and preparation.
You know, it may seem like a small thing, but having a kicking game being so strong on paper as it is going into this season, how much more confident you feel in your team knowing that you're really in good shape, place kicking and punting?
Oh, it helps, you know. It's a positive thing, and I think too we were fairly decent even overall in I don't know, one of our returns I thought was up there fairly high in the Big 12 too. And so anyway, it's a good thing, and hopefully we can improve on it. You know, we'll work hard on them here, you know, leading up to the year. But it is good to have, you know, those guys hitting the ball that have done it well before and should be more confident.
Do you feel like any of your newcomers have some good potential in the return game?
Possibly. You know, all those guys have done it. You know, Sterling, I think, who also looks great out there, you know, was an excellent return guy too. And all those guys have done it some. So we'll look at them all. It'll be, you know, the whole thing too with the young guys is who can be reliable to hold on to it.
Bob, I know you've got Trey Miller and you've got Don Whaley, guys who've been physical runners for you, but you've got some new guys. Is putting on the pads really the only way to know what you really got there with the running back position?
Sure. Get in the pads, and who's going to really be able to deflect on the hits and get the most out of it. It's always a big deal. Who's going to take care of it too? You'd be amazed. Some guys aren't used to getting hit at the college level, and it's a little different, you know. And to get separated from the ball, you know, that you can't lose it in play. Okay, thank you.